Desmond Landers here, your startup advisor and partner in entrepreneurship. Welcome to Going Global from Budapest, Hungary. Right now we are recording this from the Citadel, or the Citadella as the locals call it. It's one of the highest peaks in all of Budapest, and it was meant actually to be a fortress amongst a network of fortresses to defend against attacks. There's a lot of history here and a lot of things that have gone on, all the way dating back from thousands of years ago when this used to be a distant but important colony for the Romans. You know, there's a lot of activity that happened with World War II here, and it's an amazing city, not only for the people and the culture, but also for the architecture as well. You know, I've never been this far into Central Europe, but this place, as soon as we drove in, reminds me a lot of Paris. You know, it's interesting because the Eiffel Tower, which was built by a gentleman named Eiffel, there's also some architectural influence here, and he actually created some of the structures, like one of the main train stations as well as one of the main bridges as well. So there's a good merge of the architecture. Now, if you see behind me, this area here is the Pest part of Budapest. You can see over here we've got the Hungarian Parliament, which is the second or third largest parliament in all of Europe. Over here we've got the Budapest Eye, which is similar to the Eye that we've seen in London and also in my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia. And then over there we've got St. Stephen's Basilica, which is one of the largest, oldest churches here in Budapest. There's about 3.3 million people here, and you've got the Budapest side, and then you've got the bridge over here connecting the Buda side. Now on the Buda side you've got the Buda Castle, and then right down over there is where we're staying over at the Hilton, and it's very mountainous. It's totally different terrain over there. I would highly recommend going to the hospital in the rocks. It's right under the castle there, and it's about a 2,600 square meter development of a hospital that was actually undercover and top secret until 2002. That was built by the Hungarian government to protect against an atomic bomb, believe it or not. We toured that yesterday, and it was really amazing to see what can be done and developed underground. Now, trying to figure out what else I can tell you here. Told you about the architecture, told you about the culture. From a financial standpoint, it's actually pretty inexpensive to live here. You can get an apartment for about $300 or $400, maybe 200 to 300 euros, and the currency here is the Hungarian forint. Right now, as the date of this recording, for every $1 US, that is equal to about 280 Hungarian forints. And right now, I'm going to hold up the equivalent of $3.50 or 1,000 Hungarian forints. So when you come to Hungary, this is the type of money you're going to be spending, and this is the type of people you're going to be seeing on the currency. So now that you have a lay of the land and kind of how things are put together, now we're going to go into how you can survive here before you start your business. So to survive anywhere, you actually have to get there first. Normally, you're not going to take like a boat or anything like that to get over to Europe. So I would highly recommend, getting a flight to either Paris, London, or my favorite, Frankfurt. And if you go out of Frankfurt, you want to fly Lufthansa directly here. It's almost like being in Atlanta and not flying Delta. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's pretty inexpensive and get you straight here. Now, once you actually get here, there's a couple ways to get around. I mean, there's the metro, as I talked about before, and normally I would say there's Uber, except for the problem that we ran into is there's more people that want Uber rides than actually Uber drivers, which is a big issue because everywhere else that we travel, there's an abundance of cars just waiting to pick us up. So then what that does is that forces you to actually get yourself into a yellow taxi. Now, I can't tell you the last time that we actually took a yellow taxi up until this time, but we've taken 8 trips so far, and it's been a little bit more costly, but because the forint has a good conversion rate and the dollar is really strong, we've been able to get by with trips. Now, our most expensive trip took us from one side of the town to the other for about $30 US, which was like, I don't know, 10,000 or something like that forint. So it wasn't too bad. I can't complain because in New York City, you may spend $30 getting from 3 blocks, spending 30 bucks. So it's pretty good. Other than that, the Buda side is not as walkable just because it's kind of hilly, almost mountainy, but obviously, as you can see behind me, the Pest side is pretty flat. The thing is, since the Pest side is so flat, it just goes so far. So if you're trying to get from the Danube River all the way to the end where Hero Square is, for example, that may take you 30-45 minutes, and in the summer like it is now with 93 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to be drenched by the time that you get there. Now, from a shopping standpoint, there's a lot of shopping going on. There's 2 favorite malls I have. One is the Mamut shopping mall. It's a huge 5 or 6 story shopping mall that's on the Buda side here. And then the other one is Mom Park. It's a little bit more of a boutique, and they had my favorite polo company, La Martina, which I'm actually going next month to Argentina to see their headquarters. So you can do the Mamut or Mom Park, both on the Buda side. I'm sure they've got great shopping on the Pest side as well. I just haven't done any over there other than eat at a couple of the restaurants. From a cuisine standpoint, if you like to eat out a lot, And if you're a vegetarian, this probably isn't the place for you, because the Budapest and Hungarian cuisine is primarily built around bread and meat and a lot of dairy and cheese. And for me, that's been challenging to find a dish that I was actually excited about eating. I don't eat a lot of meat. I'm trying to cut calories, so I don't eat a ton of bread, and I definitely don't eat a lot of dairy. So if you're like me, then you want to go to the markets, and you can shop very inexpensively: tomatoes, oranges, bananas, spinach, all that stuff, and then you'd have to cook at home. If you're eating at a hotel, I would recommend to eat at the restaurant as well as order room service, because they're probably going to have dishes that are better suited for your palate, especially if you're American. Now, one really interesting thing I found out about Hungary is they're really tough on immigration. The first thing is that while we were here, there's an unfortunate situation that happened where there were 70 or 75 immigrants or soon-to-be immigrants that unfortunately died in a vehicle because they were trying to get here and leave places like Syria and some other places. And in the United States, with the elections going on and all of the issues that we have from Mexico with what our politicians are talking about, I was surprised to see that when I got to Europe this time, we're not the only ones facing those issues. When we were in the Czech Republic, they were telling us about 2,000 new people a day come into the country. That's about 700,000 people a year. From Hungary, they're saying it's at least 500,000 that are coming into the country undocumented. And the thing about Hungary is that we're finding that the laws aren't as easy for people to just come here and just get citizenship. So that's interesting for you, because if you're going to start a business here, you want to live in Central Europe, do an inexpensive way of life, and start a business. You want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. So here's how to do it the right way. The first thing that's really good is that when you enter Hungary, if you're a United States citizen, you actually do not have to have a visa for the first 90 days. Now, if you're going to stay 91 days and further, you actually have to get a work visa. The only challenge is, if you don't want to get a work visa, you're going to have to bounce over to Prague or bounce over to Vienna, stay there for a couple months, because they will not let you into the country for another 90 days once your initial visa expires. So I think that's a little aggressive, but hey, I don't make the rules around here. The final thing I'll share with you is the attractions. A lot of people don't know that Budapest is actually the city of baths. This went back all the way to the Roman times, and then the Turks really started to develop this here as well. There's 16 public thermal baths. We went to the one earlier. I can't really pronounce it, but I'm going to try it. It's Szeknia or something like that. You can look it up. I'll have it up here so you can check it out. But there was a lot of different thermal baths, and basically what happens is there's 2 thermal springs that really provide water to all the baths in Budapest. So if you think about going to the YMCA times 10, and everyone in the neighborhood is just hanging out during the summertime and bathing in water that's thermal and it's highly heated and it's got mineral concentrates that are supposed to be good for your health. That's exactly what thermal baths are. I've never experienced that before, but it's something you should definitely experience. I would also highly recommend going over to Hero Square as well. When we were in Rome earlier this year, it's just really interesting to see how far Rome got back 2,000 years ago, and a lot of the architecture and when you walk up on these massive monuments, it makes you feel like a little ant. So I would highly recommend going over to Hero Square, as well as St. Stephen's Basilica as well. Make sure you go to the top, and make sure you pay so you can get on the lift or the elevator to go all the way to the top, because if you're not, you're going to be completely drenched and sweating, and you're going to have an unhappy experience when you get there because it's so high up. But when you get there, you have 360-degree views of the city, and it's amazing. I would also check out the Buda Castle and the hospital in the rocks over there as well. Again, it's one of the only hospitals in all of Hungary that was actually built as a bunker. It was top secret, and it was atomic bomb proof. So I've never seen anything like that. The only thing that I've seen like that, but that I have not torn yet, was the catacombs in Luxembourg. So definitely check those things out, and you'll have more than enough things to do once you get here. Now on to the most important part, setting up a business in Hungary. There's actually only 4 steps to setting up a business here, and it's really it doesn't take that long, and it's not that expensive compared to some states in the USA. The first step is you actually have to meet with an attorney and get your corporate documents together. My assumption is that that would be the equivalent types of documents that we have back in the States, which are called the Articles of Incorporation, or an operating agreement or a partner agreement, etc. So you want to do that first. The second part is you actually want to go to the bank and open a bank account. Now this is a pivotal point, because in the United States you actually have to get incorporated before you can actually open up a bank account. So they actually put the bank account first, and then step 3 is actually what would be our step 2, which is registering with the Hungarian Court of Registration. That's going to run you about 172 euros, maybe something close to like $200 to get that done. And then step 4 is actually registering with the Hungarian tax authority. You know, since 2005, Forbes has written that Hungary, and specifically Budapest, is one of the best international cities to start a business for early stage startups. There's a foundation called the European Entrepreneurship Foundation that was also started in that same year by a gentleman named Peter Zaboji, and he's one of the people here in Budapest that's at the forefront of really making technology and startup entrepreneurship really something that it has a meaningful and great impact on the community and also the economic environment here. As we wrap up here, you know, we can see some of the tour buses, but I wanted you to just get a very good view of Buda. You can see it's a little bit more mountainy and a little bit more hilly than what we saw here there in Pest. And you know, it's just very beautiful. If you can see over here, we've got the sun going down in the mountains. It kind of reminds me of the West Coast. And you know, Buda and Pest actually remind me a little bit of Oakland and San Francisco, just in terms of where they are across the bay from each other. And without a bridge, you wouldn't be able to connect them. So look, I would highly recommend that you come to Hungary, highly developed, ready for you to start a business here, ready for you to live in, at a much less expensive rate than you would even in the United States in places like Hawaii, etc. And you know what that means. That means that gives you a greater chance of success for your startup business. My name is Desmond Landers, your startup advisor and partner in entrepreneurship, and I'm signing out from Budapest, Hungary. Thank you.